one thing one day and all of a sudden you're doing something completely different the next day. But Bhaktipada does not manage like a material manager, making everything go along according to some textbook. He manages to get you to surrender more. That's the whole point of Bhaktipada's management. The pure devotee is interested simply in getting you to the point of throwing up your hands and Krishna, whatever you want. So whatever it takes to do that. And those of you who've had the fortune of...
Sometimes we are logical, not convinced. How you surrender? Logically, sometimes you feel, no, this is wrong.
Surrender is not a matter of logic. Arjuna's logic was perfect from the mundane standpoint. But logic won't help you be happy. Logic won't help you attain love of God. When Arjuna used all of his logic and still Krishna wanted to do something else, Arjuna began to cry like a baby. He began to, his whole body was shot. He was like a wreck. Psychologically, he was having depression and everything. He was ruined. He was only when he surrendered to Krishna experienced any happiness in his life. Logic is not going to bring you to any happiness. Only surrender. To the degree that you surrender, that's to the degree that you experience happiness and joy as a devotee. And to the degree that you try to avoid surrender or make your own plans and have your own activities separate from Krishna, that's to the degree that you'll experience anxiety as a devotee. So it is the kindness of the Guru to kick logic in the face and just present surrender. Bhaktipada's the first one to admit that he's not logical. Bhaktipada, what's your plan? I don't have a plan. But Krishna has a plan. Well, what is Krishna's plan? I don't know, except for today, Krishna has revealed this much of his plan. So, that makes working with Bhaktipada exciting. Otherwise, regular old 9-to-5 job, it's pretty boring, but with Bhaktipada, Krishna's always giving him more and more a glimpse of his will. The spiritual life means only one thing: to do the will of God. So as the will of God is being, and the will of God changes, or at least it's being revealed differently at each moment. What Krishna wants you to do, what Krishna wanted you to do yesterday may not be what he wants you to do today. And a pure devotee means someone who's in touch moment to moment. As Sukadeva Goswami was giving class on the train, he was saying that surrender means a moment to moment understanding of the will of God. So a pure devotee is someone who's got that moment to moment understanding of the will of God. That's what makes spiritual life dynamic. It makes it alive. It's not static. It doesn't stay the same. It's ever fresh. So, to get in touch with the will of the Lord, well, if we're covered over, we should go to someone who knows the will of the Lord. We should always be in touch. We should, when we're in Maya, we don't want to be in touch close with the pure devotee. We avoid Radhanath Swami. We avoid, too close contact with somebody who's fired up, because we don't want to hear how they have to give up our own conceptions in our own life and do what Krishna wants. But when we're Krishna conscious, when we want to be Krishna conscious, we seek out the association of the pure devotee. And we become willing to be chiseled into a beautiful statue for the pleasure of the sculptor.
Surrender is a very difficult thing, definitely. Not easy. But we are told that when we want to surrender, we have to pray to Krishna like this. But we have whatever it takes to make this happen, make it real. But there seems a hidden fear in the heart. That if I pray like this, then great things will happen, bizarre things will happen. It will be totally out of control. So that fear prevents you from praying sincerely. What do we do in that case?
You pray to, Bhakti says this, he says, the prayer of someone who wants to surrender but is afraid or doesn't have the desire. And you pray to get the desire, to have the desire to surrender. And if you don't have even the desire to have the desire, you pray to have the desire to have the desire, to have the desire to surrender. Starts with desire. Surrender is not something you can do without desire. You have to have desire. Pray for desire. Associate with those who have more desire. Then the fear will go away. When you see someone who's surrendered and they're totally satisfied and blissful and full of knowledge and fearless, then they serve as your example, as your hero. Everyone in this material world has heroes. The children, who was it the other day they were watching, where's Rishal? he was saying his boy was watching the cricket highlights or something. Oh, boys have heroes, sports heroes. Girls, they have their heroes. So, and as businessmen, we have our heroes. Probably many people, you are Radhanatha is the hero for many businessmen, aren't you? And lawyers, they have their heroes. Bhaktipada has hired the best lawyer in the world, practically speaking. Dershowitz, famous, world famous. Well, he's a hero. But these are all heroes in temporary activities. You have to choose your hero amongst those who are performing eternal activities. Then you'll never be cut short of your heart's desire.
You have been in Vrindavan for about 17, 18 years.
Does it mean that you're looking at him and seeing the way his dhoti looks, or his beard, or lack of beard, or the way that you're looking at the way that he moves his head? Are these things not important? These things are not important. The physical association of sadhu. We don't associate with sadhus by seeing, we associate with sadhus by hearing. By the grace of technology, we are hearing Bhaktipada every day. We are actually getting more association with Bhaktipada now than we did when he was there. He's giving class every day. When he was there, he was giving class once a week. He's answering whatever questions we want every day. When he was there, he was only answering questions once a week. As far as I know, Bhaktipada is present more there now than ever before to those devotees who are sincerely understanding this.
How do you assess the mood of the devotees in the last 9 months compared to the last 17 years we've been there? Are they seeing it?
Well, those devotees who were attached more to the physical association of Bhaktipada, they've had problems. I can't, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, everything's hunky-dory. Those devotees who are attached to the physical presence of Bhaktipada, they've had problems. Some of them have even left. Bhaktipada had personally been nourishing some devotees by his physical care, you know. And those devotees who didn't rise above the platform of just being nursed along in this way, they've had problems. But other devotees, the devotees who are fixed, they are becoming stronger. This is a great test and a great mercy on the devotees of New Vrindavan. When this, by Krishna's grace, this temple is built while Bhaktipada is still incarcerated, that will glorify Bhaktipada more than if he would be there personally directly with himself. Because of the transcendental strength of the Gujaras, based on the sound vibration of the Guru.
Maharaj, you said that we have to select the hero, but Thakur Bhakti Vinod says that a Kanishta Adhikari is not supposed to compare the two Uttam Adhikaris.
What is the question? I don't understand.
You said we have to select our
Yes.
hero, but Thakur Bhakti Vinod says that a Kanishta Adhikari is not supposed to compare the two Uttam Adhikaris.
Compare. No one's talking about comparing. I'm talking about following in the footsteps. I'm not interested in the community of neophyte devotees. I'd rather, if I had to, start all over with one person who's willing to give their life for Krishna's service than be surrounded by thousands and thousands of followers who are still attached to sense gratification. So one pure devotee is all you need. We have the example. Make Bhaktipada your hero. He's fighting Maya. He's defeating Maya because of his attachment to Krishna, and that is glorious. That is a hero's work. A hero, you don't pick someone. You don't pick the team in last place to be your hero. The kids always pick the best players. Like in America, the basketball players, Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson. These people were heroes to so many young people. And because they're the best. Bhaktipada is the best example, living example of someone who's untouched by Maya. He's not even interested in his legal cases. I was there last week. I asked the Bhaktipada, "What's happening in your legal case?" Shook his shoulders. I don't know. And I was like, "What do you mean, Bhaktipada? What do you mean you don't know?" He says, "Well, it's all in Krishna's hands." He said, "Ask PK Swami. He might know something about it." He's not even concerned. He's in Krishna's hands. A soul surrendered to Krishna has no worry. No anxieties. He told us this 3 years ago when they were threatening him with jail. If I get thrown into jail, big deal. I'll still be doing the same thing that I'm doing now. It won't affect me in the least. We thought he was just talking. I must say, I admit that I just thought, he was just saying that to kind of like, fire yourself, keep us, so we wouldn't get depressed. But now we're seeing it. His life has not changed a bit since his incarceration. In fact, if anything, he's doing more service now than he was before. preaching to devotees all over the world. Who was our Chaitanya? He was telling me. Chaitanya hiding in the back there, getting fresh air. He's telling me Bhaktipada is calling him every day when he's in school in Philadelphia, isn't it? Or he would call to Bhaktipada, and Bhaktipada would preach to him every day. He would read to him Bhagavatam. Now, before Bhaktipada was in jail, how many times would you call him? Once a week or twice a month, maybe something? Yeah. Something. Once a month. He's preaching more than that. He's calling devotees. He's calling practically every center, at least once a week. In New York, he calls every day and gives Bhagavatam. New Vrindavan, he calls at least once a day to all the assembled devotees. Let alone the personal counseling he's doing to devotees over the phone. And his writings. I was telling Mahaprabhu, he says, well, what are the new books that are published? I said, they can't keep up with it. They can't keep up with it. But he's got a stack of books already finished that he's written that we haven't been able to publish for several reasons. But he's doing more writing, more preaching, more counseling, and than he was before. So that, to me, is transcendental life. Ahaidukiya pratiyata, one of Prabhupada's favorite verses, he quotes from the Bhagavatam. That devotional service is unmotivated, uninterrupted. If it is pure devotional service, it can never be interrupted. Whether you're thrown into jail, whether you're lying in your deathbed, or even if you die, devotional service cannot be interrupted. We see the life of Jesus Christ. They crucified him, but did that stop his preaching? No. Preaching went on more glorious, more forceful after he was crucified than while he was living with his band full of disciples who were neophytes. When he was on the planet, his disciples were neophyte devotees. They were falling asleep while he was giving class or while he was trying to pray right in the garden before his crucifixion. He was praying all night. He wanted them to pray, come pray with me. But they all fell asleep. He waked them up. They went back to sleep while he prayed all night. And they were neophytes. And when they captured the Lord Jesus Christ, his disciples out of fear ran away and hid. Preaching went on better after he was crucified by the Lord's arrangement. The pure devotee cannot be stopped. The pure devotee is the agent of Krishna. And no one can defeat Krishna. We make Krishna and pure devotee your hero. You'll never be disappointed. So, okay. One more?
When is the case likely to be finished and Bhaktipada likely to come to India?
The written appeal is finished, but has not been submitted because there is some litigation over. The prosecution wants to put all the appeals, Pune Swami, Sundakar Prabhu, and Bhaktipada, all in one case for their purposes of railroading the appeals. They railroaded the case by having them all tried together. Now they want to railroad the appeals by having all the appeals at one time. It becomes very confusing, too much. It's too much for one jury to handle, let alone one. And the same will do with overwhelming for the judge. But they want to do that for the purpose of getting their way. So our lawyers have proposed to stop that, and so that's being litigated now. So sometime in February maybe there'll be some more news. Until these appeals can take years and years. So we should just go on with faith that Krishna is in control and that not a blade of grass moves without Krishna's sanction. And as Bhaktipada was telling our Bhakti Yoga Swami on the phone, he said, or was it Mahaprabhu who said, "How are you doing, Bhaktipada?" He said, "I'm perfect." Krishna's perfect. Everything is perfect. Everything is perfect. There's nothing to be in anxiety about. So that is the transcendental news from the Vrindavan.
Radhanath Swami Maharaj, we are assembled here in Pune, and I'm really very much appreciating and thankful to Radhanath Prabhu, who has so kindly arranged all these wonderful facilities, Bhakti Path. And I told him, I'm calling you from Bombay. And he immediately asked me the first question, what's happening in Rishikesh? So I told him the reason of my coming to Bombay, that our meeting with our architect and consulting engineers. I was very happy to hear. I could see from his voice, the transcendental voice. After speaking to him, it was a joy kind of that I experienced throughout night, and I shared that with some other devotees. And you can see that how intensely he wants this Rishikesh Nav Madhuban project to come up. He has a vision that if we do it faster, it will be very helpful for our preaching, not only in India, all over. So it is from Bombay and other parts. They are very kindly and generously helping in construction and otherwise also. When last May 90, we all had a trip to, some of us had a trip to Badrinath with Srila Prabhupada and Maharaj. That time we were excavation was going on, excavating the site for laying foundation and all. But it was a great fight with constant water coming from the mountains, and the level of the site, the property we have there is because of Ganges, its water table level is little high. So it was very difficult to come out of that situation, but only by the mercy of Srila Bhaktipada we were able to fight out and lay the foundation successfully. So, like Bhaktipada changes plans by his mercy and his, what we call, solve his plans. But here in Rishikesh we had to change architects and the plans, designs, all things were been changing. We had earlier architect from Roorkee, and all the plans were sanctioned and everybody kind of approved. But somehow when we were about to lay the foundation, the steel, etc., I had an idea that why not we discuss this design with some expert in Delhi. So early morning that day I went to Delhi and showed that design to one expert in Delhi. So immediately he rejected. He said this is not the proper design for this heavy building. So then kind of confusion. So I said, alright, so we can show to somebody else also. The same time work was in progress in Rishikesh. So we wanted to do it fast. So I came back to Roorkee. In Roorkee University there is a civil engineering department. So we showed the drawings there. They not only disapproved the structure part, they personally they dislike the design also, design of the building. He said it's a kind of a hotel or hostel which we are building as a guest house for our devotees and members. So then that was also cancelled. Then by the grace of our Hridayanath Prabhu, another architect was involved from Bombay. Then the building was designed and